Hello, everyone. I'm Maricela Munoz, Senior Fellow at DiploFoundation, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Jovan Kurbalija, Director of DiploFoundation, here with me in this fabulous room that breathes history. The Alabama room, where the Geneva Convention was signed in 1864, and also the Alabama Arbitration was successfully negotiated. So, Jovan, what is that the historical spirit inspires us today? And what lessons can we draw from these amazing negotiation and dialogue processes that happen right here in this wonderful room?
Well, there is a special feeling to be in Alabama room. You can touch the history in a way. But let me start with the bad news. History does not provide us ready-made lessons. Our moment is unique in many respects, but what is even more important, history echoes across the time. And we can imagine negotiators walking through the old town of Geneva, coming here, bringing the calmness, discussing the question of humanitarian issues or Alabama arbitration. And that element of echo from the history around calmness, around engagement, and around respect for others is something which is even, I would say, more important than ready-made lessons from history.
I appreciate that because you're bringing up Geneva values. You're talking about trust, dialogue, universal principles like mediation, resolution of conflicts. So in a way, we can see that many things have not changed, but others may have changed. Can you draw on the differences from that period and today as it regards, for example, AI governance, which is one of the hot topics here in the city?
Definitely. We can say that there is a continuity and change. And if you focus on continuity, you can see a few principles that go across the time. One is inclusion. Geneva has been always, at that time, at Red Cross establishment of Alabama, a place where you felt like heard, included in the negotiation around the table. And that element of inclusion is critical, and it should be maintained in the AI era. We should have AI companies, but we must have governments, communities, citizens, marginal groups all over the world. That would be the first element of inclusion. The second element is compromise. Ultimately, if you see what is behind Red Cross, behind Alabama arbitration, you can see readiness to compromise. And here I would just make one comment. Compromise is not a very popular word today, but ultimately it has very high ethical values because you're ready to engage with the others. You're ready to listen to the others' concerns and to find some sort of arrangement which can be acceptable for both sides. Therefore, for Geneva, I would say what echoes across the time is inclusion and compromise.
Inclusion and compromise. I think that we are in near need of these principles and perspectives when we talk about not only technology, but transversal elements like development and peace and security. I know that you engage often with a multi-stakeholder community and you bring up this concept of cross-cutting views. And you coin a motto, a phrase, which is Esprit de Genève. Can you elaborate on what that means, please?
Well, I played it with famous concept Esprit de Genève, which was related to humanitarian tradition, including Red Cross movement, which started here in this room. That I said, okay, what are the elements of the spirit of Geneva, Esprit de Genève, which are applicable to technology? And then I've tried to find the thinkers who were either born or who lived in Geneva and wrote or conducted their research that influenced the current discussion on technology. And this is how Esprit de Genève came into being.
Interesting. So you look across centuries and profound thinkers, people who were born here or visited Geneva or made Geneva their home, and they brought up these amazing values of trust, of human dignity, of entrepreneurship. Can you give us some concrete examples so we can learn a little bit more of this Esprit de Genève?
Well, the famous is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I'm sure that it is well known for all of our viewers. Mary Shelley started writing Frankenstein slightly more than 200 years ago in Villa Diodati, a few kilometers away from the place where we sit now. And this is the eternal reminder of the human drive to push the frontier, to invent, to discover new things, and in the same time, human predicament that very invention that we develop could hurt humanity. It was discussed in the myth of Prometheus in ancient Greece, and there are many other examples. But Mary Shelley brought it in the very vivid example of Dr. Frankenstein creating a creature, and that creature, instead of a slave, became a master. And we know the whole narrative. But this is a reminder which is basically as if she were writing it yesterday here about risks that artificial intelligence creates for humanity.
So lessons from the 19th century, we're talking about social responsibility, ethical innovation. Yeah. That's quite amazing. Let me bring up one writer that is one of my favorite fellow Latin Americans, Jorge Luis Borges. I think that you mentioned him in the Esprit de Genève, and I would like to read a phrase by him so you can elaborate also on the meaning in the context of AI policy making and governance. He said, "Nothing is built on a stone, all is built in sand, but we must build as if the sand were stone." Uncertainty, complexity, those concepts I feel are mixed and embedded in this amazing quote from Jorge Luis Borges.
Excellent. Thank you for quoting him. This is one of key sentences that we are surrounded by uncertainty. This is nature of human existence. Mm-hmm. But in the same time, we should not strive to discover certainty in our life, including through scientific methods. And the problem which Borges pointed to in such an eloquent way is that we cannot attain that certainty. Again, you have a Tower of Babel, you have many, many symbols in the past where humans tried to become gods, to have a certainty, to completely grasp the life. And Borges made that a reminder around text. In his Library of Babel, he basically said all what was written is a collection of a lot of letters. From time to time, librarians find some meaning, but finding the meaning in the sentence book, it doesn't mean that librarian or us humans are getting the full understanding or wisdom. And that's a timeless warning, which was repeating in recent encyclica Magnifica Humanitas by Pope, who basically said the similar things. Hey, we are not perfect. We should try for perfection without idea or hubris that we are perfect. And this is such a strong warning from Borges and from the Pope Louis XIV about our AI era.
I'm delighted that you mentioned Magnifica Humanitas because I'm mesmerized by their key messages. I think that this document will stand the test of time, definitely. I hope the Pope will come and visit Geneva or stay here and live after he retires sometime, because we had the house of Jorge Luis Borges very nearby, the house of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the church of Calvin. All these amazing personalities also shape the values of Esprit de Genève. So if we go to Rousseau, for example, and his social contract, how can we learn from what's embedded in that magnificent document and apply it today to AI governance here in Geneva for the negotiations that we deal with every day?
Well, as we know from overall Rousseauian thinking, he believed that we are born free and good, and society makes us different. Let's put it mildly. And Rousseau's thinking is based on the individuals of the humans, potentials of the humans, our creativity. And that's basically the strongest message for our era. we are basically through, let's say, centralized artificial intelligence, depriving us humans from our knowledge. And Rousseau, in his writing in Emile and the Social Contract, he has been arguing that we are masters, or we should be masters of our destiny and our knowledge. Nowadays, if we are delinked from knowledge through the centralization of the big systems, we are going to be in the situation that we cannot deliver on basic social contract that we have with our society. Social contract is very simple. Society, we pay taxes, we do military service, we vote. In exchange, we get security, functioning market, and protection of our dignity and the realization of our potentials through schools, health system, and other things. If we are deprived and delinked from our knowledge, the whole social construct that Rousseau created for his time, but we have been renewing it throughout the history, may collapse.
So there is need to revisit that social contract and perhaps put it in the light of the era of technological advancements and scientific breakthroughs. And I see a connection there between what Magnifica Humanities speaks about, but also in terms of AI governance and the reflections that emerge from thinkers that lived centuries ago. And before starting this interview, you were mentioning Bonnet, which was a Genevois. He used to be a lawyer, but also fascinated by the mathematical patterns in plants, the structures. Can we revisit what their learnings in that excellent reflection of the connections between nature and the human being we can draw from and learn more about and apply it today, basically, so that these AI conversations become a little bit more human-centered.
Yeah. Well, Charles Bonnet is a hidden star of Geneva. Unfortunately, not celebrated that much.
Okay.
He was a lawyer by training, but at that time, lawyers coming from aristocratic families had a time to become polymath. He dealt with the physics, with the botanics, and one of his passions was to discover patterns in nature. He was basically counting the leaves and finding why the distribution of the leaves, how the leaves are distributed in order to get the maximum intake of the sun. Very simple principle. And he came to some sort of golden ratio, how they're distributed. And he basically said, hey, there are patterns in the nature like there are patterns in science or law. And he even thought that there must be some fiber which is carrying the human thoughts. And in a way predicted machines as simulators of human intelligence almost 300 years ago. Therefore, Charles Bonnet is definitely hidden star of science, technology at the Geneva scene, and one of my favorite characters from Esprit de Genève community.
So we have so many in Esprit de Genève, and congratulations for compiling all these amazing human beings that can still give us so much today, especially to face our current challenges. I want to finish with one particular personality that I didn't know about, a character. That's Ferdinand de Saussure, because I know that you are fascinated by coding, the meaning of words, the semantic nuances. And when we engage with large language models, we are sometimes wondering about the transparency issues, how these models extract meaning for us when we're believing the outputs every time that we come up with a prompt or a question. And you told me earlier that Saussure was fundamental in understanding the structure of language and, of course, given birth to perhaps modern coding. Perhaps we can, in terms of this voyage in history of all these amazing human beings that are continuous, look at for lessons for today, for AI governance, learn a little bit more about the fundamentals that relate us again to the human being and how we express meaning and empathy and love and trust and compassion and all these characteristics that describe us.
Sure. Thank you for bringing the Saussure. And if AI companies have to pay some fee for the copyright of ideas on which they were built, I'm sure that his successors or whoever will earn quite a bit of money. And the reason is that he, building on structuralist theory in sociology and others, he tried to make science out of the linguistics. And he made the clear distinction between syntax, which is organizational language, verbs, the subject and the other, and the semantics, meaning. Okay. Therefore, through the concept of sign and signifiers, he basically laid the basis for what later on became large language models. Therefore, his work, not directly, he didn't have the idea of AI at that time, but he had the idea of the language and linguistics as a scientific discipline, which can be codified in certain way through patterns. And I think he influenced, his thinking influenced through the other thinkers, the way how we came to the point of creating a large language model. And he's a fascinating person.
And I love that you underscore the human balance component, because by design, we should embed this in the coding and not afterwards, let's say. So, Jovan, this is your moment to give a few messages, key takeaways for the negotiations here in Geneva, in New York, and elsewhere on AI governance. I think that there are major events coming our way this summer, and also Switzerland and Geneva are going to host the next AI summit next year in July 2027. Please share with us a little bit of wisdom in this regard.
Sure. Let me start with Esprit de Genève lesson, and this is the lesson: that we should not be chrono-narcissistic. We should not think that everything is happening now and here. People before us in Geneva, but all over the world, were thinking about society, about language, about human predicament. Let's learn. Let's learn from Chinese history, from Indian, from Latin American, of course, ancient Greece, Christianity, and all of those people who set the operating system of society, let's say 20 centuries ago, around axial moment. And if you really unpack that, what Pope's encyclica did, those principles are the same, because they deal with a few issues that all of us are concerned about: hope, fear, love, and they transcend the time. Therefore, let us not be chrono-narcissistic that everything is happening now and here. Second point is let's have humility, and that's extremely important. This is lesson from Frankenstein. Let's say humility, who we are, what we can do, and let's make AI genuinely human-centered. This is a favorite term these days, human-centered AI. But what does it mean in its core? That's the key that we have to discover beyond the phrase. And probably third point is related to this room where we are sitting today. It's question of inclusion. Inclusion of all concerned by AI developments. By bringing AI closer to people through another Swiss principle of subsidiarity, by including people, we can have a buy-in, and AI won't be considered something strange and dangerous which will destroy humanity, but it will be just considered as a useful servant, useful tool, which can help us to realize our potentials, to live possibly better. And that's the key message. I would say that if I have a chance, I would probably advise the negotiators to have this inclusivity through subsidiarity of all concerned, not only those who develop AI or who understand AI, but those who are going to be impacted by AI.
I couldn't agree more. I think that those voices from the past that you compile in the Esprit de Genève are here with us today in this room in Geneva, in the present, but provide us with fundamentals for the future that we want to shape, with AI governance that underlines human dignity, the centrality of the human being, and of course fosters human agency, so that we can use AI as a tool and not the other way around. Thank you so much, Jovan. This has been an excellent exchange.
Thank you, Maricela. It was great to chat with you.